Hello, this is Blair Stanislao with the Happy Lion Center. Welcome to our podcast, Mystical and Infamous, where we have playful and easy conversations about anything mystical, getting to the heart of all things strange and weird. Join us in a bit of magical tomfoolery, spreading the alchemy of love and light. And now, we invite you to enjoy the show.
Well, I think my eclipse experience actually started 2 weeks ago, Wednesday, and quite, unannounced. It just sort of like crept in and rocked my world. And I've got to believe that had to do with the eclipse energy. I was reading another one of these books that I read, that triggers stuff for me. Mm-hmm. And in this one, God bless Trisha O'Malley, because most of the books that I've read have been hers that have just like rocked my world. But anyway, I read this thing, and there was a sentence in there where the woman said, "Nobody's ever picked me." And I lost it because that was my sentiment exactly. I mean, even in school, because I was totally unathletic, so I'd be the last one to be chosen for any team, but all my relationships, always, nobody ever picked me. I've never had somebody declare undying love for me. It's always been me chasing after the relationship, making it happen, and it should never have happened, but I did it anyway. Really good at that, and I started crying. And I probably bawled for about 2 hours. I cried myself to sleep that night. Yeah, my eyes were swollen. It was a hot mess. And it was that every day there would be something else after that. It was like building and building and building. I finally decided that, you know what? I know I'm giving birth to something new. That's what this feels like. It feels like labor pains because it's
come and go.
And about, I don't know, Monday or Tuesday of the following week, I must have hit transition, and I was in hard labor and the pains were coming just like that, because it was one thing after the next that was just keeping me emotionally bereft, a lot of grief. And so I have a friend who, she's older than me, and she's retired now from her other job. She was a doula. Okay. For many, many years. She's a Reiki master, Reiki teacher, and I mean, she's really good at it. And so what she's doing now in her retirement is she calls herself a life doula. Oh, cool. And her name is Ife Tayo White. And so I called her up and I said, Ife Tayo, I think I'm in the birth process. I want to hire you to be my doula. Interested? And she said, oh, yeah. So we had our first doula session on Wednesday. And basically she got onto the call and she said, she was waked up in the night and she said, I saw there was so much scar tissue around your heart and in your womb area. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, I feel it. I know it. I mean, yeah, I get that. And so we started like a meditation where she had me put my hand on my heart, my hand on my second chakra. And she was talking me through stuff. And at some point in there, the light bulb turned on over my head. And I got, oh my God, now I see the contract. I said, I've been doing this for millions of years. Mm-hmm. And the contract was to be maybe you call it a sexual healer, I don't know, but to help the quote unquote immature male find their heart opening.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
And so all of these relationships that I've had, as they ended for whatever reason, mm-hmm. these men went on to meet their beloved partner, and most of them, they're still married to that person today. Mm. Certainly all four of my husbands that has happened with, but I mean, even the random guys that I dated, same thing. They would be with me for a while and then they would move on. And I always felt like I was just a placeholder, I mean, and I always knew that I'm just their placeholder. They're waiting for something better to come along, and it hurt. It created all these scars and all these wounds because it was so painful to me, that to always be the one left behind um, the one who didn't get her needs met, all that kind of stuff. And so as part of this meditation that we're doing, we're breathing, we got hands, whatever. I began to see that it went back to like being the Vestal Virgin in the temples for Isis.
Mm.
But they weren't virgins, right? I think we all know that one. And I lost my innocence. I lost my purity. I lost all that. And I was holding all the energy of all of these men that I thought I had cleared. I mean, I've been working on this for 20 years, but I was holding all of this energy still. And I got to release it as part of whatever it was we were doing. And I'm still not really sure what we were doing.
So let me ask you this, because I've gotten much more familiar with these big energy shifts like this. And I know that it comes out different for different people. For me, I actually asked a friend of mine, she was telling me she was having a big shift like this too. And I said, are you like feeling it in your body? And because she knows me well enough, she said, not like you. And what she means by that is like, for me, if I have a big energy shift like that, not all the time, but a lot of the time, because you hold that in the energy that doesn't flow, gets stuck in your body, and then you essentially have disease, right? That's what causes
pain.
Disease.
Yeah, pain.
Or pain, right? Same thing. So yes, I have a lot of pain. My husband jokes with me, you're falling apart. You're gonna kick the bucket before me. And I'm like, you don't know how much better I feel than I used to feel,
Right.
But another way that it comes out is like, sometimes I'll just have like this weird physical reaction. I'll go to the bathroom nonstop for 2 days, or, I have, let's see, I'm trying to think. I don't know. You can just feel the energy shift when it's gone. I'll describe it like this. I just had dental work done in the last 2 months on my teeth. Okay. And they were like replacements for old fillings that were there. And I didn't realize, and he didn't realize either. He's a very good dentist, but he pulls out these two that are next to each other because they had started in between. And then as he gets those two out, oh, look right behind it. You've got decay that nobody could detect. He said it was with x-rays, right? It was taking a long time to get there. He actually showed me a picture of it. Of course, it was disgusting, but I didn't realize until after that was done, because he dealt with that one too, that I felt so much better. Like my body just felt like it was working better. I didn't realize I was having that little low level of pain, or I don't think it was pain. It was some kind of discomfort. Something was off. And so when that was fixed, it's just you just go back into more harmonious. But then I also noticed, I mean, like it took me less than a week to be like, okay, this is my new norm now. Instead of it being this major shift. And like you're talking about, you had something shift, you recognize that it's there, and then you got to finish the shifting, before you can kind of reacclimate. So how does that come out for you? I know you're talking about emotionally, but does it come out in other ways?
Pain. Okay. So about, I don't even really remember when it started, but I started having pain in my left hip, like in the glute area and in the back of the hip joint. And I was like, oh crap, I had both my knees replaced over the last couple of years. I certainly hope I'm not heading for a hip replacement. And I had to go in for my 1-year checkup on the second knee replacement. And he said, oh, no, if your hip needs replacing, you feel that in the groin. You don't feel it in the hip joint. And I was like, oh, thank God for that. But still, so, and actually it started before that. My vision went wonky.
Oh, so if you're just in the last couple of weeks, you experienced that?
No, the last couple of months. It started maybe a couple of months ago that my vision got off. And it would like all of a sudden I would be on the computer or reading or doing something, and all of a sudden it would get blurry.
Oh.
For no reason. And then it would go, a minute, seconds later, it would clear back up.
Yeah.
It was just like, but like during that time, I would have to pick up my computer and go like this to try to.
Oh, yeah, like really bad. Yeah.
Really bad, And so I started trying to figure out what was wrong with that. I had blood work done. My blood work was normal. They did a MRI on my head. All they found in there was squirrels. Um, they did my neck to see if there's something was squeezing off something to the optic nerve in my neck. And they found, some like bulgy disky things, but nothing that would affect my vision. And then what did he do next? Oh, he did a scan on my carotid arteries. They were perfectly clear. And eventually, and I went to the chiropractor because somebody said, well, maybe your atlas is off and that could affect that. And my atlas was off. They fixed that. Everything's been fine. And so I went back to the ophthalmologist and he said, oh, it's dry eye that's causing your vision problem.
Okay.
So I've been getting drops for that and it's gotten better. And then the hip pain started. So, yeah.
So I see this as like, well, first off, we know that you're sensitive to energy because you do the muscle testing, you do this energy work, you're sensitive to it. So, other people may or may not notice that this kind of thing, but somebody who's sensitive to energy would notice those kinds of things, try and figure them out. But if you're not getting at the root cause, then like you said, it just shows up somewhere else. Okay.
Yes.
Maybe you kind of like messed around with this, but we're going to keep coming at you until you understand it.
And, and this whole time I've been doing sessions.
Okay.
Try to get to the root cause. And I keep getting this, that, and the other, but never really got to it until last Wednesday.
Okay.
My vision cleared up immediately. So that was a good thing because I didn't want to see this. I didn't want to see that I'd had this contract for all these lifetimes. And that the big piece I didn't want to see was that I signed up for all of that hurt.
Yeah.
Because I've been playing this guy and that guy and the other guy, that broke my heart. I was there to help them move forward. And I said I would do it. I volunteered.
Well, so here's my question. I know you didn't want to see it, meaning consciously you didn't want to see that.
Right.
Can you sense on a deeper level how and why you would have done that?
Apparently I signed a contract. I think it goes back as far as maybe Lyra, that many lifetimes ago to do this. And I don't think I really went into that contract willingly.
Oh,
the rust upon me. It's like, okay, here's your job, Jean. You got picked. And I think that I got picked then. And then all these other times I'm saying I didn't get picked, but it was because I shut myself off. So all the stuff, in my body, the pain in my left side of my body that I've been dealing with, is because energy's been trapped because I shut myself down. I didn't want to receive, anymore. I've done enough of this. I don't want any more men in my life. So therefore I've been in this desert of men. I haven't been able to even see a man, no matter how hard I look, that kind of thing. Because I was shutting it down. So I'm thinking I've given birth to this new me who is now back to being a virgin and back to her purity. And the next thing I heard was that song from Enigma, Return to Innocence. And I had to Google that afternoon and found the music video. Oh my God, if you've never watched that music video, it is the most profound thing. I mean, the song is lovely to begin with, but the words, they don't mean anything that much, but the video.
Yeah.
It starts with an old man eating fruit out of an orchard, but it goes back through the life, minute by minute, all the way back to the womb.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is why I have come to the conclusion, it is my conclusion, I don't care what anybody else says, is that creative creations, I should say, no matter what they are, and of course you've got your own, the mediums, whatever the format is, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Are standard ones that people accept on a regular basis, are music, something visual, can be dance, any of those things. If the person is really in tune with their higher self, they get those clues. It's like, hey, make this thing like this. And then it becomes a message for you. Yeah. I mean, like I do get messages through song. It's a little bit weird. I think I don't know how to describe it other than the song that I'm given is the lyrics are usually important. But
Mhm.
recently, in the last couple of months, I've actually gotten songs that the lyrics work and they definitely support the idea, but it's actually the sounds that
Uh-huh.
really, like, I actually heard the last song that I heard was In a Dream, and I had listened to it recently, but I hadn't listened to it enough to really know what it was. So when I woke up and I heard that song, I was like trying to replay it in my head. And then I was kind of searching and I was like, oh, it's that song. That's the song I've already been pulled towards anyways, right? And I think the way you're describing, you were saying, it was months ago that this started bothering, my eyes were bothering me, and then my hips. And now you're to the point where, like you said, you're kind of birthing it. So it's not like it's boom, all of a sudden we turn the light switch on. It's like you're getting little hints over and over that are just kind of leading you there.
And again, I mean, and I owe such a debt of gratitude to this author, Tricia O'Malley,
Yeah.
because it's her books that
Mhm.
have just blown me wide open. And they're just little romance novels,
Yeah.
about witches and fairies and
Mhm.
dragons and unicorns and gnomes and
Yeah.
hedgehogs, such as that.
Well, I don't know if you've listened to or talked to any of these people who talk about alien races and like they communicate with them and so forth. But there's one person that I've interviewed a couple of times, and she does communicate with them. She says she's a hybrid. But it was interesting because we had a brief comment about Star Wars. My husband loves Star Wars. It's on TV every day. They have so many cartoons you can't even imagine. So it's on every day. And as I was saying that to her, she said, yeah, that's based on this alien race and this particular galaxy or what have you. And
Orion. It's based
that's
on Orion.
what I
George Lucas
find really
was a
funny.
channel.
Yeah. Right, exactly. What I find really funny is that, my husband doesn't get this stuff. Like this is
Right.
not his thing. But he kind of makes jokes like, something about the force. And I'm like, yeah, the force is real. It's not pretend. It's not just used during war. We actually use it on a regular basis. You don't even know it. So there's always those little subtle hints. A friend of mine calls them soft reveals, you know.
Uh-huh.
Things
Yeah.
like Avatar is a good example, right? Anybody who's in tune with any of that knew like, whoa, that is a big time visualization of it. Yeah.
Yeah, completely, completely. So yeah.
So as you're telling this story, this is what it reminds me of. Over the last month or so, I've also had some major energy shifts, and one
Woohoo.
of those involved family. We went on a trip, and essentially what happened was I got triggered. It wasn't because anybody did anything necessarily wrong. It was just that circumstance caused me to get triggered. And it wasn't just a light trigger. It was like, let me put you back in this situation that you had as a child that you really didn't get to deal with,
Uh-huh.
and here I am 46, right?
Yeah.
And anyways, it to me, every now and then I just get these glimpses, largely because we just got married, so it's sort of new, right? But I
Yeah.
get these glimpses of, wow, look at your issues compared to my issues and his issues and her issues. And it is like, I kind of have like this feel for, you can sort of see the subconscious stuff, but sometimes, it's hard, it's elusive. And just looking at the dynamics of all of it. So I pulled myself to him. We eventually get married. Like, this is not lighthearted. This is quite an involved process, involves a lot of people, so that I could get in the car and be triggered perfectly, right?
Uh-huh.
So that I could have this reaction. So are you, well, I know that you just kind of went through that, but are you able to see how you feel a certain way in response to learning this stuff, but can you see that your role it is a specific role for you, but they played roles for you as well? Like, is
Totally.
reciprocal? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Uh-huh. And so especially like for this one, I had to go give gratitude to every one of those men that allowed me to be their love mentor, to help them
That's
learn how
so
to
kind.
open their heart. You
Yeah.
know, and all of them didn't get it with the immediate next partner.
Yeah.
They come to me in my dreams.
Ah.
Uh, Over the last week, I've had one after another in
Oh.
my dreams. And one of the guys, and this one, I'm telling myself here, but this was an affair that I had with a married man. he had just gotten married. He was a newlywed.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, and there was no commitment at all in this. This was just purely lust.
Mm-hmm.
And, and it went on for years. It was an ongoing thing the whole time we worked together. We were co-workers for several years. And then after that, I left the company, and we kind of lost contact with each other, but he was already married, with his wife, but he ended up later on having another affair with another coworker. And he fell head over heels in love with this woman. That it was about ready to wreck his marriage. And I only found out about this much later from a mutual friend, because I haven't seen this guy in years. She was killed in a car wreck, and it derailed him.
Oh, wow.
Somehow or another, his wife stuck through this with him because they were, I think, meant to be twin flames or whatever, or maybe in their case, soulmates, because it was a learning thing. And they're still together today. They both retired, I mean, this has been over 20 years ago that all this stuff happened, So it took that second teacher for him to get him to go, oh shit, maybe I need to look at what's in my own backyard kind of thing and appreciate that. I don't know. But anyway, came to me in a dream. And in the dream, I was walking, it was a billboard, and it was like celebration of life for this person's name. And I looked at the billboard and I thought, whoa, I wonder if he's dead. Mm-hmm. I need to Google this. Of course, I'm asleep, right? Okay. And the dream goes on, and I go into a building, and in the building, there's a sign on the wall, celebration of life, this person's name and a date. So that's twice. And I was like, really, I need to Google this. And I went out of the building. And as I'm walking out of the building, there's this big, like in Tallahassee, these big oak trees that, hang to the ground and everything. And like the Cheshire Cat in the tree is this guy. Oh. And he's just smiling at me and nodding. And I was like, oh, you did get it. You finally learned the lesson, and we're celebrating your life because you got it. And I woke up.
That's pretty cool. So, I don't know if I told you, but I'm doing a dream interpretation class.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, my mind's going all over the place with that, but
because he is still alive. I did Google him when I got up.
Okay. Yeah. And I find that I find myself actually dreaming and almost like analyzing it as I'm dreaming it. Like last night I had a dream that I was, 2 nights ago, I had a dream that I was going to move these cars, and I started to do it, but then I was getting too close and I needed help. So I needed either to move some of the cars or I needed to get somebody to help me or something. So I tried to go get help, and then nobody responded. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to channel on it. Well, I'm taking formal training in channeling. I now know I've been channeling, right? This is just a more formal. Right. Okay. So I was like, okay, I'm going to channel. So then I went into this channel mode, and then they almost like came into the channel and like were checking to see what I was doing. And then I came out of it. So I knew that I wanted to go back into that dream and try and do the thing I was supposed to do, because that's the thing you should do. So I tried to go back into that dream. And then last night, my dream was like all about channeling, and I was getting all different kinds of stuff. But I actually wound up waking up really, I don't know if it was the moon or whatever it was, but I wake up like really early today, but it's trying to figure out how do you kind of put that information that's coming into you from a dream, how does that apply to reality? So for it to be up high, the person to be up high means that they're a guide, right? Mm-hmm. So they're giving you that information that you needed, which is this. And essentially, so when was that dream?
Like 3 nights ago.
And how long has it been since you did your, it's been about 5 days since you did that session with them?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the very next night, different guy. This was a guy that I was in a relationship with for about 3 years. And I really did think I loved this guy, and I thought but again, this was one of those ones where I knew that he was just marking time, that I was not his one. And he ended up, I kind of caught him red-handed in an affair.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the end of that, you know. But in this dream, he was in the dream and everything was really nice. I mean, there was no angst at all. But I was still teaching him in the dream.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it was I was teaching, but I was going back over it, but it had to do with, you know, life lessons and love.
Yeah.
But, you know, but it was all, there was like nothing negative in it at all. And I was very detached from it. Like I wasn't in a relationship with him. I was just mentoring.
So have you considered yourself through this evolution, this energy shift, have you considered yourself just a being who is here to help not just men? Because it seems to me that you help everybody through that.
Yeah. I think this was my segue into coaching everybody, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense.
So I don't know, but it's just, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what evolves out of it. Because I have no idea. And I'm not certainly not attached to any kind of an outcome, or I don't have any expectation, but I feel like I'm birthing a baby. And so I wonder what that baby's going to be, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think you have some premonitions and we recorded some of it. So it'll be really interesting to see.
Exactly.
I really appreciate your frank conversation about this. This is something that I struggle with sometimes. I do a lot of this energy work and I swap with people and we give each other testimonials and things, but the really heavy energy work that like what you're talking about, the stuff where you're making big shifts, it takes time to understand what has happened, what has shifted, where is your new thought process, you know? And for me, you know, like I can say something nice about whatever experience I had with them, but that's very temporary. Energy work is not. It can be temporary, but it's not for the most part. Usually if the intention is set by both people that it's bigger, it's going to be bigger, which means the consequences or the reactions or whatever you want to call it that comes out of that shifting can take months or years.
Like an eclipse.
Yes,
you know,
very much like an eclipse.
Has shifted today for all of us. We won't really probably know for 6 months.
No, and you know, when the nodes shift like they are. I mean, this is an eclipse, but it's a new moon, but it's specifically in a very spiritual nakshatra. It's in Pisces, and the way that I calculate it, it's in Pisces. And so it is going to be a really spiritual shift.
And I'm a Pisces.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be a big thing for you. Yeah. And it's going to be a big thing for me because I'm a Virgo rising, so it's in the
right
house. So
the other side of that seesaw.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot to be said for the authenticity of even people who are very veteran at doing this energy work. You know, it just takes time. You can't articulate everything right away.
No. Yeah. I mean, I think I've done a good job for myself. I'm pat myself on the back just for getting out to you what I've gleaned so far. Yeah.
Yeah. The energy shift that I had started in March. One of the first things, so I call it like I think there's definitely that birth phase. So there's the pre-phase, which I would say in this conversation was your eyes and your hip. You knew something was happening. Maybe you weren't consciously aware of it, but we now know that was the precursor to all this. So maybe that's like the pregnancy phase. Then you have the main event that's like slapping you in the face. Okay, you got to pay attention to this because if you don't, it's just going to come back, right?
Right.
So then you have that phase, and then for me, it's like you got to have a recovery period. And then you have like an assimilation or an application period. And then you have more of like, what does it really mean in my life? And so in those, I would say after the recovery period, but really before I got into any of the next part, I realized I had to write something because
writing a book about this, aren't you, darling?
Maybe.
You just outlined it.
Yeah. But I just wrote a blog about this because I recognized being in the situation that I was in, because it was so perfect for me, right? Like it was highly emotional and it was exactly what I needed to be able to see this. And it forced me to recognize, oh, here's this subconscious thing that I have not dealt with. It's going to slap you in the face. Do you know that I finally realized, it finally occurred to me, I said, oh my gosh, I have been begging for months, years almost, to say, I need to understand how these things get in the subconscious. What do they feel like when you've got something in the subconscious and then it comes out in the real life? And so this was painted for me in a picture in real life form. So I'm like, okay, I got to totally write this down so that other people can understand it, hopefully. So that was the first thing I did. And I knew, and I get told things like that. I just know I have to write something, but,
Mhm. Been there.
not necessarily for other people, really. I mean, it sort of is, but it's, sometimes it's really just for yourself. But this
Well, I mean,
wasn't completely about processing only. It really was. I feel like other people should understand.
exactly. I mean, the second book I wrote came out of a nervous breakdown, literally. I mean, today they would call it like a dark night of the soul, but
Yeah.
for me, it was really a nervous breakdown, and it happened in a grocery store parking lot.
Mhm.
And I started crying and couldn't stop
Mhm.
for no reason. I mean, I had a perfectly good life, I thought. And in that grocery store parking lot, when I finally kind of got my act together enough that I could go in and buy the roast, I realized that, I'm in a big shift and I don't know who I am anymore. And these are not tears of sadness. These are tears of fear.
Yeah.
And because I don't know who I am anymore. And if I don't know, nobody else does. And I made a commitment in my car to blog that and to chronicle it and then use that as a workshop to help other people. And at the time I was eight women, but it ended up being my second book, Reframe Your World,
Yeah.
was the catalyzing moments and the process that I went through to dig out of that big hole.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
And
was.
I don't think that's uncommon. I think I don't know. It's just different how we come up with things and how do we process, the subconscious stuff. You don't even always have a feeling about it. You can be aware of it. You can have a feeling. That was one of the things I learned with this dream interpretation is that you may have a feeling that never even makes it into words,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have the feeling, but if you don't allow it to go through that process of manifestation or whatever you want to call it, to go through, then you're still stopping the energy
Yeah.
and it comes back.
And when you stop the energy and it gets all up, it makes pain. It makes pain in the butt.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. I actually, on this physical plane, so I'm very connected to my body. I didn't realize that I was, but I am. Regardless of any of the stuff, really before I even got into any energy work, I played sports in college and I overused my shoulder, didn't know it was chronic pain, didn't even know it was pain until after my husband died. And I was like, what, my shoulder does hurt. But when I make it up to Montana, I started working with for just a personal trainer, but he was a different one in that he did something called muscle activation technique. Well, I had become a massage therapist, so I had an idea of what that was. And I really liked the way it was kind of set up. And I did work with him about a year. And through that experience, what I discovered was if I paid attention to what the signals were physically in my body, so that would be pain, discomfort, something off, something like that. And I told him, which is what he wanted me to do at the moment, what he would do with this technique is then you say, okay, do it a little bit more. Let's make sure it's there. Yes, it's still there. Yes, that's the problem. Okay, now go get on a massage table and we're going to palpate the muscles that are involved in that joint movement. Okay, so depend on what joint or what movement it was. That's what you got. Every single time for a year, it either moved, got better, or completely went away. Just with palpation. Okay, so that's just a physical manual manipulation. But through the conversations with him, I started to recognize, like, I can remember being a child and like doing something physically and be like, oh, that hurts my pinky. Like sometimes like this morning I walked up the stairs and I was like, oh, my left foot feels weird. Obviously those muscles aren't functioning properly. And I'd take 2 or 3 more steps and it kept hurting, but then it went away. What I noticed is that as a child, when I would do that and I'd be playing, especially playing a sport, in my brain, I was just like, oh, let's say this is the pinky finger. Oh, the pinky finger hurts. I'm not going to use it. I need to hold it like this. So then I would do the next move in a different way to compensate. So nobody knew that I was having a pain in a weird place. And you can even do it. Like I was thinking like rowing, if you're doing the crew movement, there's a lot of motions involved. And if you're pushing, nobody knows if you're pushing with your right foot or your left foot, right? It's the same.
Yeah.
So, but that's not paying attention to what's going on in your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you pay attention, like your eyes or your hip, if you pay attention to that, turn around and ask it, then you can actually get some answers. But I noticed that the sensations that I felt that I would have associated with pain are really just energy moving.
Mm-hmm.
And
or
when I
not moving.
Right. Well, okay, right. It's not energy moving. I would say it in terms of like art, where you say it's contrast. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of people say things like negative energy or bad energy.
No.
To me, it's like, okay, there's a difference between this energy over here on the right and the difference between that energy on the left. I don't know that we should actually go to the point of saying good or bad, but they're different. So you're just looking for contrast. But if you actually pay attention to that, the shift in that, because that is a shift, it's something has changed.
Yeah.
And you respond to it early, then you don't have quite the dramatic effects.
Exactly. Yeah. So my hip pain started with my left foot.
Okay.
And I ignored it. I got one of these plantar wart things on the bottom.
Uh-huh.
And so I was walking funny, I went to the podiatrist, had it treated, blah, 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 blah. But I was walking funny and to not make it hurt.
Yep.
Until it became chronic and I started walking wonky.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was walking side to side like this instead of just straight, moving my legs like a normal person would do.
So really you could say, I think my family thinks I'm crazy for this, but really you could say anytime anything happens, if you were to look up the metaphysical reason behind it, if you could kind of like look at that and actually see, oh, I have like your foot is supposed to be about your path in life. Where are you going? Right? Like there's something that's causing you to stop, or you're doing something that's getting in the way.
And it was my left foot. So it would be my female path.
Ideally, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, and that stuff is all so vague to me. I mean, it can tell you a little bit, but unless you actually put like more concrete words, it is hard to figure out. I mean, I still do it.
I mean, I have not dug out Louise Hay on this, and I should have.
Well, there's a lot more people now that have written it. And I think she's the first one, right, who did that. The hypnosis stuff that I do. The daughter of Dolores, Julia, she has a whole book on that too. But I mean, you could even look in Chinese medicine. You could look on all different kinds of places.
Yeah, there's something called German New Medicine that has all these things for that too. I've never studied it, but I've heard that it's been profound.
And for me, it's like anything you can get your hands on to give you a clue as to what to then turn around and look at. Yeah. Exactly.
Because I want to know. I want to know the truth.
Yeah. Ready to move that energy, because it's not always good to have it stuck there. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, Correct. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I think that's a beautiful way of more personally depicting what energy feels like. Because I spent a lot of these interviews trying to figure out how can we show people what it feels like when energy shifts? How can we show them what is it like? And that was I haven't had a personal story quite like that. So thank you.
Well, I'm just your weird friend, Blair.
All my friends are weird.
Oh, Lord have mercy. But, I definitely feel lighter. I'm still dealing with the hip pain. I went to the physical therapist today, but it was because I was digging out my yard and, pruning old azaleas and hauling stuff up the hill to the street and all that kind of stuff. And I overdid it this weekend,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's starting to move out.
Yeah, you can kind of shift feel the direction shift. It's just like it's starting slowly, with other things and then coming in. Then you've got that peak, the climax. You still have to go.
I'm having more hours without any pain at all than I was having, say, a week ago.
Yeah. So that's physical evidence. It's actually shifting.
Totally. Yeah.
Send inquiries, suggestions for new discussion topics, and comments to podcast@happylioncenter.com. That's podcast@happylioncenter.com. If you found this content enjoyable or helpful, please comment, like, share, and download. Donations are appreciated and help us to produce more of similar content. Consider making a contribution at the links in the description box. Your support is greatly appreciated. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Happy Lion Center and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything. None of the content provided should be considered a substitute for legal, financial, medical, psychiatric advice or as care from a certified professional.